Natalie, just sign the marriage papers. Yvonne's hurt and the family needs you to stop causing trouble. That's what Lincoln said, while his mistress stood there faking an injury. I tore the certificate in half and walked into the storm. Now I'm not the fiancé who served his family. I'm Dr. Natalie Cross. He came back with a broken arm. But I was already too far gone to look back. If anyone had asked, I would have said I was happy. After all, I had a son who called me Mom, a fiancé who once saved my life during a disaster, and a home that hummed with quiet stability. But no one asked. And even if they had, I probably would have lied. Because the truth was hollow, cold, and wrapped in obligation. My name is Natalie Cross. I lived the first half of my life trying to earn love from people who never intended to give it. It all began with the earthquake. Back in the year 2000, I was engaged to Lincoln Dawson, the man who once pulled me from the rubble with bloodied hands and trembling arms. They said he was a hero, that he chose me over certain death. But no one talks about what came after. Because in saving me, Lincoln let someone else suffer. Yvonne Gray, his childhood sweetheart, was trapped near the same site that day. But Lincoln chose to carry me out first. A metal beam crashed down as he pulled me to safety, pinning her right arm underneath. The damage was irreversible. Her days as a sketch artist were over. And with it, my life began to unravel. Lincoln never said it aloud, but I knew he blamed himself for her injury. His guilt came in waves. First subtle gestures, then suffocating acts of atonement. He began helping her with bills. Then rent. Then one day I came home to find her mother, an elderly, barely lucid woman, sitting in our living room, suitcase by her side. She just needs a place to stay for a few days, he said. Days turned to months. Months became years. Yvonne's mother moved into the guest room. Lincoln's mother, who'd been paralyzed for years, already occupied the master suite. I moved into the smallest room, the one closest to the kitchen. Because that's what I had become, a caregiver. I cooked, cleaned, washed bedpans, managed medications, grocery shopped, and occasionally worked odd jobs just to cover what Lincoln's salary didn't. I stopped going to church. Stopped seeing friends. My skin dulled. My hands cracked. My back began to ache permanently. By the time I turned 42, my hair was nearly all gray. But I never stopped serving. I thought, foolishly, that one day Lincoln would turn around and see me. That he'd remember I was the woman he'd once promised forever. That he'd ask about my dreams. That he'd plan the wedding we never had time for. That maybe, just maybe, he'd love me again. But that illusion shattered the moment I stepped into our bedroom and saw her in his arms. It had been a rainy Wednesday. I'd rushed home from the pharmacy after picking up medication for Yvonne's mother. My socks were soaked, shoes squeaking with each step. I fumbled with the umbrella, trying not to spill the soup I'd packed in a thermos. As I passed the hallway near our room, I heard a soft laugh. Yvonne's. I froze. Lincoln, she murmured, when will you finally divorce her? Be patient, baby, he replied, his voice low and intimate. I can't leave her yet. Who else would take care of your mom? Or mine? The air left my lungs. I nudged the bedroom door open with my elbow. The thermos and pharmacy bag slipped from my hands, crashing to the floor. Bottles scattered across the hardwood. The smell of beef broth filled the room. They both turned. Yvonne scrambled away from Lincoln, her silk robe slipping off one shoulder. Lincoln had the nerve to look annoyed. You two are shameless, I said, my voice shaking. Lincoln stood protectively in front of Yvonne. Natalie, what are you doing? What am I doing? I laughed. It came out bitter and hollow. You're asking me that? After everything I've done for you, for your mother, for her mother? Yvonne stepped forward, her expression perfectly pitiful. Natalie, you were the one who cried out for Lincoln during the earthquake. He's only taken care of me because he feels responsible. I didn't think. My hand moved on its own. The slap echoed through the house. Yvonne gasped, holding her cheek. Lincoln yanked her behind him and glared at me as if I were a rabid dog. Natalie, he shouted. You're out of control. Just then, footsteps thundered up the stairs. Finn, our son. He stopped in the doorway, taking in the scene. His gaze locked onto Yvonne, her lip trembling, tears forming, her hand still pressed against her cheek. Then he looked at me. You monster, he said. I blinked. Ethan. How dare you hit Mommy, Yvonne? I am your mother, I said, my voice breaking. No, he snapped. She is. She was the one who helped me with school, who cheered me on at the games, who cared when you were too busy with chores. As if the cooking, the scrubbing, the round-the-clock caretaking was something I chose. Then, like in slow motion, he charged forward and shoved me. My back slammed into the banister. I lost balance, stumbled backward. 1, 2, 3 steps. Then I fell. Everything blurred. I heard a scream. My own. Maybe. My head cracked against the stairs. A hot, wet sensation poured down the back of my neck. Then came the silence. Their voices floated above me, distorted and frantic. "Natalie!" Lincoln yelled. "She's bleeding." "Let her die," Ethan growled. "She deserved it. If it weren't for her, Yvonne would still be able to draw." Darkness crept in. Yvonne's voice, so sweet it curdled my stomach, cooed, "It's okay, Ethan. She was just tired. She'll sleep now." My last sight? Yvonne lifting her paralyzed right hand and waving it mockingly. She had lied. She had never been injured. And I had given everything. For what? I died there, broken, bleeding, and alone. Betrayed by the man I served, the woman I sheltered, and the son I had raised. But fate wasn't done with me yet. Because in the next breath, I opened my eyes. I was standing in the town marketplace, clutching a bag of beef. The clock above the fishmonger's stall read 10:36 a.m. It was March 12, 2000. The day of the earthquake. I blinked. Looked down at my hands. No gray hair. No aching joints. No blood. I was back. And this time I would not waste my second chance. The smell of raw beef clung to my hands. I looked down at the brown paper bag I was holding and realized I was still standing in the Oak Ridge town market just like I had all those years ago. Except this time, I wasn't the same. This was the day I died. March 12, 2000. I remembered the exact tremor that ripped through the earth, the screams, the dust, the blood pooling beneath my head. I remembered the pain, the betrayal, the cold, and I remembered the voices. "You deserve it," my son Ethan had said. "If not for her, Yvonne would still be able to draw," Lakin had whispered. And Yvonne? She'd smiled. Waved her supposedly paralyzed right hand at my broken body like it was a joke. But I wasn't broken anymore. Not now. The earthquake hadn't happened yet. I had time. I had clarity. And I had no intention of repeating the same story. The wind picked up as I walked back toward the Dawson building, but this time I didn't take the main steps. I climbed the back staircase and watched quietly as Lincoln passed by in his Riverbend Works uniform, barking into a radio. "Yvonne," he called. "Stay close to the south entrance. If anything happens, call for me." He wasn't looking for me. He never had. When the ground finally shuddered beneath me, I didn't scream. I didn't run. I crouched low beneath the steel beams stacked beside the shed and pulled my coat over my head. The sky cracked open with thunder as buildings around me began to crumble. Smoke filled the air. Glass shattered. Sirens blared. And through the dust I heard him again. "Yvonne." I didn't make a sound. "Anyone here?" he shouted again. I stayed hidden. The air was thick with debris and panic. Lincoln's voice faded. His rescue team ran toward the center of the collapsed housing unit. Away from me. In that moment I realized something. I didn't need saving. Not by him. Minutes later another voice broke through the noise. Low, calm, unfamiliar. "Is anyone there?" It wasn't Lincoln. "Hello. We're from the East Response Team. Knock on something. Yell." I drew a breath deep into my lungs and screamed, "Here. I'm here." Within moments, light broke through the darkness as hands pulled bricks and dust away from me. I coughed, eyes stinging, and saw a man's silhouette against the sunlight. "Got a live one," he shouted. "It's a woman, she's conscious." He bent down and smiled through the grime. "Hey. You're safe now." The name stitched onto his uniform, Walker. I tried to say thank you, but the words caught in my throat. Then everything went black. When I woke up again, the world was quiet, eerily so. I was lying on a makeshift cot inside a triage tent filled with the groans of the injured and the hurried shouts of nurses. My body ached. My head throbbed. But I was alive. And I remembered everything. I sat up slowly, pushing off the thin blanket when a nurse rushed over. "Miss Cross," she said, slightly breathless. "You're awake, finally. There are more critical patients arriving. We need this bed." "Fine," I said, swinging my legs over the side. We'll be moving someone else in. Who? The curtain pulled back. Yvonne Gray stood behind it, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes wide with practiced innocence. I stared at her for a full 10 seconds. Yvonne. Still whole. Still standing. Still lying. And yet still playing the victim. Natalie, she said sweetly, you were injured pretty badly and I hate to ask this, but would you mind letting me use your cot? Just until another bed opens up. My hands curled into fists. Injured. I repeated. Which part of you? She hesitated, eyes glancing to the nurse. My hand. My right hand. I can't really feel it. I snapped. Oh please. That hand was just fine when you slapped me with it in another life. Yvonne's mouth dropped open. What? You heard me. The nurse blinked. Miss Cross, if you could just move. Sure, I said. But only after she admits she's faking. That she was faking the first time. That this is just another sympathy stunt. Yvonne's eyes darted around. You're confused, Natalie. You hit your head. No. I cleared my head, I said sharply. Then another voice joined the circus. Natalie. I turned. Lincoln Dawson had arrived. Dust-stained, boots heavy with mud, face smeared with artificial concern. What are you doing here? I asked flatly. I came to check on you, he said. How thoughtful, I replied. Your childhood sweetheart needed a bed, so you thought I should give mine up. He stiffened. She's injured. So am I. She's family. No, I said, my voice like ice. She's your lie. Not mine. Lincoln's expression darkened. Why are you acting like this? Like what? Alive? Conscious? Awake? He took a step closer. Natalie, you're obviously overwhelmed. Yvonne is fragile right now, she just needs to lie down and milk sympathy, I interrupted. Like she always has. Yvonne gasped. That's uncalled for. I stood slowly, my ribs aching with every breath. You think this is uncalled for? I said. Try waking up one day and realizing your entire life was spent serving people who only saw you as convenient. Lincoln's jaw tightened. Let's talk outside. No, I said. We'll talk here. In front of the people who should have seen this sooner. He looked around. A few medics had paused. A wounded man on the cot across the aisle raised an eyebrow. Lincoln lowered his voice. Natalie Grace's, Yvonne's, mother still needs care. I thought you, of all people, would be willing to help. Why me? He blinked. I'm not her daughter. I'm not even your fiancé anymore. There was the first crack in his armor. What did you just say? He asked. I said, I breathed, meeting his eyes. I'm calling off the engagement. Silence. It was as if even the wind outside had paused to listen. Yvonne choked. You don't mean that. I didn't look at her. Lincoln stared like I'd stabbed him. Natalie, don't be dramatic. You're not thinking clearly. You've just come out of shock. No, I said, my voice steady, unwavering. I've come out of delusion. He took a half step forward. Think about Ethan. About our families. Ethan called me a monster before I died. Lincoln's mouth opened. Closed. I'm done, I said. With those two words, something inside me settled. Yvonne made a move toward Lincoln's arm, but he didn't respond. He stood there, stunned, like I'd yanked the ground out from beneath him. Get out of my tent, I said softly. Nat. Out. Yvonne tugged on his sleeve. Come on, Lincoln. Let's go. They left together. I sank back down onto the cot, heart pounding. For the first time since I returned to this world, I had drawn a line. And this time I wouldn't cross it. 3 days after I left the hospital, Lincoln Dawson came to the door with the same arrogance I remembered from before I died. Natalie, he said, standing at the threshold like he owned the air I breathed. Yvonne's mother is being discharged. The back bedroom needs to be cleaned. I told the nurses you'd help. I didn't answer. I folded my shirt slowly, brushing off invisible dust. Natalie, he repeated, more impatient this time. I heard you, I said flatly. He frowned. Then what's the problem? The problem, I said, folding the shirt and placing it in my bag, is that I'm not your housemaid. And I'm not your fiancé. He blinked. We're not doing this again. Yes, I said sharply. We are. Until it sinks in. I'm not taking care of your mother. Or Yvonne's. Or you. You still live under this roof, he snapped. Don't forget who took you in. You didn't take me in. Our grandfathers signed a piece of paper. You and your mother made it clear I never belonged here. Yvonne's mother needs help, he said stiffly. We have guests coming from the relief office. The house has to look presentable. I stepped toward him. Give me the engagement certificate. He blinked. What? You heard me. The document binding this charade. I want it. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. I raised my hand. You said if I walked out it was over. Well, I'm walking out. But I'm taking that paper with me. You're being childish, he said. No. I'm being finished. He stormed off and returned moments later with a sealed folder. He held it out like a sword. Take it. Go ahead. Throw away everything. I took the folder, opened it, and tore the engagement certificate in half. Then again. And again. Until it was shredded into a flurry of dust-colored confetti. Natalie, he stepped forward. Don't, I warned. You think this makes you strong? He growled. You'll come crawling back. Don't pretend you can make it on your own. I picked up my bag, swung it over my shoulder, and walked past him. If you walk out that door, he called after me, it's over. For good. I stopped. Turned around slowly. Exactly what I wanted. He was still standing there, arms folded, mouth tight. You'll regret this. I looked him in the eye. The only regret I have is not burning this bridge sooner. Then calmly I stepped out the door, walked down the steps of the Dawson house, and didn't look back. Not when he slammed the door. Not when the air turned cold. Not when my legs trembled from exhaustion. I was free. Finally. And I would never serve them again. The days after I left the Dawson home were quiet, but not in the peaceful way I hoped. They were heavy with silence, with people staring just a beat too long, with the whispers of, "Isn't that the girl who left Lincoln Dawson?" I had no home, no job, and nothing but a rolled-up bag and a pocket full of resignation. But I had my voice. I had my spine. And soon I had something else. A summons. It came from the temporary relief office set up near the edge of Riverbend. A soldier came to the door of the communal tent and asked, "Miss Natalie Cross?" "Yes," I answered cautiously. "Dr. Sam Walker's unit is requesting medical volunteers," he said. "You've been listed as a capable assistant." I blinked. "Me?" He nodded. "You have field experience. You cared for 2 bedridden patients for over a decade, didn't you?" The way he said it, it didn't sound like pity. Sounded like recognition. "Report by 0600 tomorrow," he added. And just like that I returned, not as someone's fiancé or someone's caretaker, but as someone useful on her own terms. The medical tent was chaos in every direction. Screaming, blood, broken limbs, and sobbing children. But I moved through it like water. My hands knew what to do before I thought it. After all those years cleaning wounds, lifting fragile bodies, coaxing down fevers and easing convulsions, it turned out, I had become a nurse. Unofficial, unrecognized, but competent. Dr. Sam Walker greeted me with a calm nod. "Glad to have you, Cross." There was something about him. Quiet leadership, not the loud kind Lincoln always wore like a badge. Sam didn't speak often, but when he did, people listened. I was focused on wrapping a young soldier's fractured arm when a shadow fell over me. A familiar one. "I can't believe this," Lincoln muttered from the entrance of the tent, his arms crossed over his chest. "So this is where you've been hiding." I didn't turn around. "I'm working." "Leave." Yvonne's mother nearly fell trying to get out of bed yesterday. "I'm sure you'll figure it out," I said coolly. "You're so good at protecting the women you like." "I thought you'd come to your senses," he snapped. "But here you are, flirting with soldiers and playing nurse." That was when I turned. The tent went quiet. I stood tall, blood-stained gloves still on, and walked straight toward him. "What did you just say?" He sneered. "You're out here touching men, laughing with them while my family is falling apart." A few medics turned to watch. "You think helping a few patients makes you important?" I reached up and slapped him across the face. The sound rang through the tent like a gunshot. Everyone stopped. He staggered slightly, stunned, his hand flying to his cheek. I took a step closer, my voice low and deadly calm. "Don't you ever come into this place and insult what we do here. You walked away from me for a lie. For Yvonne Gray, who faked an injury to trap you. And now that I've walked away, you think you can still shout orders like you matter to me?" I turned and gestured toward the wounded lined up on stretchers. Do you see these people? These are the ones who deserve care. Not you. Not your mother. Not Yvonne. You've taken enough. His face flushed with rage. You'll regret this. I leaned in. If you interrupt patient care again, I'll have you removed. By who? Sam Walker's voice cut in like steel. By me. Lincoln turned toward the entrance. Sam stood there, arms crossed, not smiling. This is a medical zone, Sam said. Not your family drama arena. Get out. Lincoln looked between us. You're protecting her? He spat. I'm protecting the patients, Sam replied calmly. And if you ever barge in here again and threaten a staff member, I'll file a complaint directly to Riverbend Works and the disaster board. For a moment, Lincoln looked like he wanted to lunge at Sam, but he didn't. He clenched his jaw, turned and stormed out, the flap of the tent snapping behind him. I stood there shaking slightly, but it wasn't fear. It was adrenaline. And freedom. Sam looked at me and said nothing for a moment, then nodded once as if in approval. The moment passed. But the whispers didn't. By the end of that day, everyone in the tent and most people in Riverbend had heard about it. The girl who slapped Lincoln Dawson. The girl who told him to get lost. The girl who used to be invisible. The consequences came quickly. Neighbors who once whispered about me now looked at me with cautious admiration. One of the older nurses pulled me aside. Good for you, she whispered. That family treated you like a servant. We all knew. Another man from the warehouse said, Yvonne's not even injured, you know. Saw her write her name with her right hand last week. The truth was starting to slip out. It didn't take long for Lincoln's golden boy image to crack. That night, while cleaning gauze trays, Sam leaned over and said, You didn't have to do that. I know. But I'm glad you did. I smiled. I didn't do it for you. I didn't say you did. There was something easy about our silences, like nothing had to be explained. When I finally went back to my cot that night, I lay awake for a long time. Not because of regret, but because for the first time in years, I felt the weight of 1,000 invisible chains fall off me all at once. I had slapped the man who once controlled my life across the face, in front of a room full of people. And I wasn't sorry. Not even a little. 3 days after the slap that echoed through Riverbend, I came back from the field tent and found a crowd gathered outside the community kitchen. I didn't need to ask who was causing the commotion. Because standing at the center of it all, wearing a silk shawl and smug smile, was Yvonne Gray. Lincoln stood beside her, pale and rigid. Behind them I saw a group of older relatives from the Dawson family, the village chief, a few nosy neighbors. And then I saw her. My heart lurched. Grandma. Grandma Rose stood between them, wearing her best sweater and a tired expression. Her hands trembled as she clutched a cane. Lincoln's aunt was holding her upright like a prop. Alarm shot through me. I dropped my satchel and rushed forward. What is going on? Lincoln stepped forward as if he'd just emerged from a dramatic play. Your grandmother asked to see you. I turned to her. Grandma, are you okay? Her face was pale, her lips cracked, and there was a weight in her shoulders that hadn't been there before. Till she smiled. I came to see you, my dear Natalie. Yvonne gently stepped forward as if she were the picture of grace. Grandma's been coughing terribly. She insisted her final wish was to see you and Lincoln married before anything happens. My jaw clenched. Lincoln reached into his coat and pulled out a folded envelope. The district office is open today. We can get the marriage certificate filed. Let her see you married before she passes. My blood turned to ice. They were using my grandmother to force me back. Someone in the crowd whispered, Poor grandma. All she wants is to see her granddaughter wed. Another said, The girl should just agree. It's only right. My fists tightened at my sides. Yvonne handed Grandma's arm to me. She kept saying your name in her sleep. I hope Natalie doesn't defy us. Isn't that what you said, Grandma? I looked down. But Grandma wasn't looking at me. She was staring directly at Yvonne. There was a long, aching silence. Then suddenly Grandma raised her arm and slapped Yvonne hard across the face. Gasps tore through the crowd. Yvonne stumbled back, clutching her cheek. What? You shameless girl. Grandma barked. I may be old, but I'm not blind. Lincoln froze. Grandma, what are you? You two brought me here thinking I'd help trap my granddaughter into marrying a snake, she said, eyes flashing. You used my health like a weapon. Her voice shook from exhaustion but not weakness. You think just because I'm coughing I don't see the way you look at her? That smirk on your face every time you think you've won? I may be old but I've known your kind for a long time, Yvonne Gray. Yvonne went pale. Lincoln tried to intervene, stepping forward. This isn't. Shut up, Grandma snapped. You stood by while my granddaughter slaved in your house. I watched her turn gray before her time, watched her hands crack and bleed while your mother and your mistress lounged around like queens. His mouth opened but she didn't let up. And you, she turned to Lincoln's aunt. Dragging me into this circus. What did you think? That you'd guilt Natalie into becoming a maid again for your sick old household? No one moved. The crowd fell into silence, broken only by the coughs Grandma tried to stifle between her fury. Shame on all of you, she hissed. She turned to me, eyes suddenly soft. Natalie, are they bullying you? I couldn't speak. I felt 12 years old again. Except this time I wasn't powerless. Yvonne stepped forward. Grandma, you're confused. You're ill. Let's go lie down. Grandma shoved her hand away. I'm dying, not stupid. Lincoln's face turned to stone. You're disrespecting our elders. Before he could take another step toward her, I moved between them. Touch her, I said, and I'll break your arm. Lincoln faltered. From the edge of the crowd, several men stepped forward. My uncles. Men from Oak Ridge. Their broad frames and stern expressions formed a wall behind me. The village chief took one step closer and said, If you so much as raise your voice to Grandma Rose again, I'll personally drag you in front of the district council. Lincoln's jaw tightened. His mother, who had remained quiet until now, finally hissed, Ungrateful brat. I turned to her. Pardon. You forget who gave you everything, she spat. Without Lincoln you'd still be barefoot in the village. I smiled. You're right. Without him I might still have a clean conscience. Then I raised my voice. Let me say this loud so everyone hears. I will not marry Lincoln Dawson. A wave of murmurs passed through the crowd. Lincoln's mother pointed a trembling finger. You'll regret this. I turned calmly. I'd rather marry a stray dog than your precious son. Lincoln flinched. His pride cracked in real time. Yvonne, he muttered. Let's go. She stood frozen, red-faced and humiliated. Now, he snapped. Together they walked back through the crowd, no longer triumphant, no longer in control. Behind me, Grandma Rose coughed into a handkerchief, her shoulders shaking. I turned and gently caught her arm. You shouldn't have come, I whispered. I had to, she said. You've been fighting alone long enough. I helped her into a shaded seat and the village chief called for water. The crowd slowly dispersed, leaving only a few lingering women whispering, this time not about me, but about them. The Dawson name no longer carried respect here. Yvonne had slapped Grandma's honor. Lincoln had tried to trap me with guilt. And I had walked away. That evening I sat beside Grandma on the wooden bench outside the housing tent, holding her hand. I'm sorry they brought you into this, I said. She patted my palm. You think I didn't want to come? I needed to see with my own eyes that you were finally choosing yourself. I closed my eyes. I feel guilty still. Isn't that ridiculous? She smiled. Not ridiculous. Just human. After a long pause she added, Now that the dust is clearing, what are you going to do? I don't know, I admitted. But whatever it is, I'm not going back. Good, she said. We sat like that for a long time, under a softening sky as evening fell over Oak Ridge, and for the first time in years I felt like I was finally becoming my own woman. They called me doctor long before I earned it. It started with a cough. A little boy from the northern tents came in crying, his chest rattling with each breath. There were no beds left at the triage tent. Sam was out with the mobile team. The nurses were swamped. So I did what instinct and years of unpaid labor had taught me. I boiled water. Mixed herbs I'd seen my grandmother use. Made a paste to clear his chest. The next day the fever broke. By the end of the week, 3 more children came to me. By the end of the month I had a cue. Sam Walker noticed. He approached me during a slow shift and said, You've been seeing patients alone? I braced for reprimand. Only the ones the tent turns away. He studied me quietly, then said, What did you use on that girl with the burns? Comfrey and water chestnut, I said. Then cooled with boiled plantain leaves. He raised an eyebrow. You learned that in medical school? I learned it from desperation. He nodded once. Come with me. I followed him through the main medical post, past boxes of donated gloves and dusty shelves, to a desk stacked with thick manuals. He placed one in front of me. Emergency Field Medicine Volume 1. You're not a nurse, he said. Not yet. But you're close. So let's get you the rest of the way. I blinked. You're serious? You've been doing this for years. You just didn't have a clipboard or a white coat. A lump rose in my throat. I took the book with both hands and bowed slightly. Thank you. He only nodded and said, class starts at sunrise. Don't be late. Days bled into weeks. I woke before the sun. Tied my hair back. Wrote notes until my fingers cramped. Shadowed Sam through heat, dust, and aftershocks. I learned to diagnose, to stabilize, to improvise when supplies were short. Sometimes Sam would correct me quietly, patiently. Other times he'd step back and let me lead. He never praised me in front of others, but I noticed. He stopped double-checking my bandages. He handed me his surgical scissors without a word. He let me sign off cases under his name. One afternoon, after we reset a boy's dislocated shoulder together, he passed me a flask of warm barley tea. You didn't flinch when he screamed, he said. Most rookies do. I stopped flinching years ago, I murmured. He tilted his head. I know. We didn't speak again that day. But something had shifted, unspoken, steady, real. Oak Ridge slowly began to heal. People rebuilt homes from scraps. Women cooked in shared fires. Men carried buckets for strangers. And in the middle of it all there was me, kneeling by wounds, grinding poultices, stitching quietly in candlelight. They began calling me Doc Nat. Started as a joke, but it stuck. Somewhere along the line I stopped correcting them. Even the ones who once whispered behind my back now came to me with sprains, coughs, fevers. One old woman brought me a basket of eggs and said, "This is for what you did for my grandson. May you never go cold again." I cried that night. Not out of pain, but because it had taken me dying to finally feel alive. One evening as I sat under the awning outside the relief tent, Sam joined me without a word. He handed me a steamed bun. I took it gratefully. We chewed in silence until I asked, "Why me?" He didn't pretend to misunderstand. "You knew what it was like to go unheard," he said. "And you never looked down on anyone. You noticed that?" "I notice a lot." I looked at him sideways. "You're not much of a talker, are you?" He smirked faintly. "Neither are you." We sat in silence again. But this time it was warm. Finally I whispered, "They tried to bury me." He turned. "I know. But I'm not underground anymore." Sam didn't respond right away. Then he said, "No. You're standing on top of the mountain now." I turned to face him. And for the first time since my rebirth I felt seen. Not by a man who wanted to mold me. Not by a family that wanted to use me. But by someone who simply saw me. That night as I studied blood-clotting patterns under a flickering lantern, I realized something. I didn't need to be someone's wife. I didn't need a certificate or permission. I had a name. I had hands that healed. I had purpose. And for the first time in 2 lives, I was becoming the woman I was meant to be. I had just finished stitching up a minor head wound when I heard the commotion outside the tent. Raised voices. Shuffling feet. A barked warning from a soldier. Then Lincoln Dawson's voice, unmistakably laced with arrogance, boomed. "I'm here to see her. Move." My stomach clenched. I stepped out from behind the curtain, wiping my hands with a towel just in time to see Sam Walker standing like a wall between Lincoln and the tent entrance. "I told you, Dawson. You're not welcome here," Sam said, voice flat and unbothered. Lincoln scoffed. "You think I'm going to let her run wild in this village without consequences?" "She's not yours to control," Sam replied. "Oh please," Lincoln sneered. "She's a failed fiancé, a glorified herbalist playing doctor in a refugee camp." Sam didn't move, but his eyes narrowed. "Say one more word." I stepped forward, calm but loud. "Let him speak. He's here to embarrass himself." Lincoln turned toward me, mouth curled. "So this is what you've become? You used to kneel to scrub our floors. Now you patch up peasants and flirt with medics." Sam moved before I could. With one quick motion he grabbed Lincoln by the arm as the man stepped forward, and twisted it. Hard. There was a loud pop. followed by Lincoln's scream. He dropped to one knee, clutching his wrist. The crowd around us gasped. Sam let go and said coolly, "You came to the wrong place for a show." Lincoln groaned. "Broke my wrist." Sam turned to me. "Natalie, diagnosis?" I knelt, gave Lincoln a once-over and said, "Hairline fracture in the radius. Bruising in 2 minutes. Swelling in 5. Optional." Lincoln spat. "You don't know what you're talking about." Just then one of the senior doctors, Dr. Parikh, stepped forward from behind a curtain, arms crossed. "Actually, she's correct. You'll need a sling in 3 weeks off that hand." Lincoln looked up in disbelief. "You're siding with her?" Dr. Parikh raised an eyebrow. "I'm siding with the diagnosis. And with whoever made you scream like a child in front of 30 people. Laughter rippled around the tent. Lincoln's face turned crimson. And then Yvonne arrived. She came rushing in dramatically, hair pinned high, one arm in a sling, wobbling as if she were on her last breath. "Lincoln," she cried. "What happened to your hand?" She rushed to his side, pretending to stumble. Except this time someone caught her, by the wrist. Dr. Parikh again. "Excuse me," he said, inspecting her bandaged arm with a practiced frown. "How long have you had this injury?" Yvonne blinked. 3 weeks. He raised her arm higher. "That's strange. Your muscles haven't atrophied at all. Your reflexes are perfect. And you're not wincing from the pressure I'm applying." She yanked her arm back. "Don't touch me." But it was too late. The crowd had seen. Dr. Parikh stepped back. "That sling is a prop. You're not injured." More whispers. More eyes. Lincoln stood up, clutching his wrapped arm. "She's recovering." "No, she's performing," I cut in. "She faked an injury to steal sympathy. To steal your family's trust. And you let her." Yvonne's eyes darted, desperate. "She's lying." Sam handed a clipboard to Dr. Parikh. Her intake form said right arm nerve damage. "She wrote that herself," Dr. Parikh replied, eyes narrowing. "There is no record of treatment. No record of trauma. Just theatrics." Yvonne's composure cracked. "You all hate me. You're jealous." "No," I said. "I'm just done playing dumb for people like you." Lincoln tried to support her, but the crowd was no longer on their side. "You faked it," a man muttered from the back. "Made fools of us." "You used your grandma's illness," someone else said. "What kind of woman does that?" Yvonne screamed. "She set me up." "She wasn't even there," Sam snapped. And just like that, the performance ended. Yvonne burst into tears, ran out of the tent, and Lincoln, bandaged and humiliated, stumbled after her, his pride in splinters. That night, as I boiled herbs in silence, Dr. Parikh sat beside me. "You handled that well," he said. "I didn't expect it to fall apart that fast. Lies usually do." He poured tea into a wooden cup. "You know, we're opening a permanent clinic here. Once the camp clears, Oak Ridge will need a resident field medic." I looked at him in disbelief. "Me? You've already proven yourself. You don't need a title. Just grit. And you have plenty of that." Sam, who had been checking inventory nearby, added without looking up, "She also has the village behind her." I smiled faintly. Then maybe I wasn't buried after all. Sam looked at me. "No. You were planted." The next morning, a notice was posted in the center square. "Dawson Family Relief Request for Government Aid. Revoked pending investigation." Underneath, a smaller notice. "Yvonne Gray, banned from volunteer medical services until further review." Word spread like fire. And for the first time I walked through Oak Ridge not as a shadow of Lincoln Dawson's past, but as Natalie Cross, the barefoot doctor who broke the golden boy's arm and exposed the lies he tried to bury her with. The day the sign went up, I cried. It was nothing fancy, just a white plank of wood with faded blue paint. Oak Ridge Medical Relief Center. Dr. Natalie Cross, acting director. There was no ceremony. No garlands. Just Sam handing me a brush and watching me paint my name letter by letter. "I'm not a real doctor," I whispered. Sam tilted his head. "You've treated more patients than any certified doctor in Riverbend. You've stopped bleeding with your bare hands. You've pulled people back from death with herbs and boiled cloth. If that's not a doctor, I don't know what is." I looked at the name again. Dr. Natalie Cross, and let the tears fall without shame. Because that girl who once begged for love, who once waited in hallways with water trays and bitten lips, she was gone. And I had lived twice. The weeks that followed moved in harmony. Children raced through the camp with cleaned wounds and colorful slings I decorated myself. Old men nodded when I passed, their eyes softer now. Women came to me not just with pain, but with trust. Sam and I worked side by side like gears in motion. There was no need to speak when we stitched wounds, no awkwardness in passing each other instruments. Sometimes we'd sit under the neem tree near the clinic when the sun dipped behind the hills, sipping barley tea. Just breathing. Letting silence settle like silk. And yet, there was something unspoken between us. Something neither of us dared to name. Not yet. One evening, a letter arrived from the district medical board. Sam handed it to me without a word. I opened it with trembling fingers. Congratulations. You are hereby certified to oversee the permanent Oak Ridge Clinic under the Rural Health Reform Program. Your designation as Field Medic Level 3 grants authority over training, hiring, and medical operations. Honorary license issued. Dr. Natalie Cross. Effective immediately. I sat back stunned. You knew. I asked Sam, voice thin. He shrugged. I may have written a few letters. You wrote a few? He smirked. Maybe 10. My eyes burned again. Sam. You earned this, he said. I just told the truth. I hugged the letter to my chest. And for the first time in a long, long while, I let myself feel proud. Not lucky. Not surviving. But deserving. News spread fast. When I opened the doors to the permanent clinic, the village lined up, not just for treatment but to thank me. To say my name with respect. Mrs. Hahn from the flour mill brought me fresh roti. 3 little boys made a drawing of me in crayon, complete with my blue scarf and gloves. Even the village chief came and saluted awkwardly, mumbling, Dr. Cross. I couldn't stop smiling. But the biggest surprise came a week later. He came limping through the village square, arms still in a sling, eyes hollowed from sleeplessness. I saw him before he saw me. He hesitated outside the clinic doors, then stepped inside. I heard you're a doctor now, he muttered. I am. He looked around at the shelves, the patients, the flowers people had placed on the windowsill. I don't recognize you anymore. That's because you only ever knew the version of me who needed you. Silence. Yvonne left, he said quietly. Packed her bags. Didn't even say goodbye. I'm not surprised, I said, clicking a pen. She only stays when there's something to leech from. His face crumbled just slightly. I was wrong. Noted. I thought you'd be bitter, he admitted. I was, I replied calmly. But bitterness is heavy. I needed my hands free to heal people. He winced. Do you hate me? No, I said. You were a mirror. I just don't look into it anymore. He turned to leave, then paused. I hope you find what you deserve. I smiled faintly. I already did. He left without another word. No begging. No grand apology. Just a man finally seeing what he lost. Later that night, I found Sam repairing the irrigation tap behind the tent. Want some help? I asked, holding 2 cups of tea. He took one, wiped his hands, and nodded toward the hills. Walk with me. We wandered up past the well, the moonlight soft and golden. The air smelled of damp soil and late jasmine. People trust you, he said suddenly. Not because of the title, but because you never gave up. I was going to, I admitted. I know. But you didn't. We stopped under the neem tree. I've been thinking, he said slowly. This village needs someone stable. Someone grounded. I laughed. Are you proposing a merger? He gave me a crooked smile. I'm asking if I can stay. Not just as a doctor. As your friend. Your partner. Whatever you'll allow. My chest tightened. You sure? I asked. I'm not quiet. I'm not soft. I don't promise happy endings. He stepped closer. You don't have to be soft. You're already enough. My breath caught. Say it again. You're enough, he whispered. And this time I didn't hesitate. I kissed him, quiet, sure, not for saving me but for walking beside me when I finally saved myself. Weeks later, a new sign was added under mine. Dr. Samuel Walker, Deputy Chief Medical Officer. People called us the doctor couple. But I like to think of us as survivors. Not of war. Not of betrayal. But of rebirth. Now when I wake up at dawn and open the clinic door, I see villagers waiting. Not because they're desperate but because they trust me. They trust Natalie Cross, the barefoot doctor who lived twice. Once as a girl defined by others. And once as a woman who defined herself. The end.